Hello, I wanted to film a video, but I feel so disheveled as a human being. So I'm going back to the only thing that makes me feel not disheveled, and that is an excessive amount of sticky notes and NBC's Hannibal Lecter TV show. I'm feeling so unmoored, so I figured if I'm feeling unstable, then why not talk about things that are unstable? Like this TV show. Okay, I probably put in the description or in the title of this video, I don't know what I'm going to do with this video, if it's even going to see the light of day, but something about therapy quotes from Hannibal Lecter that I live my life based off of, or some stupid shit like that, because these therapy's expensive, and I don't really like therapy typically because it feels very gaslighty a lot of the time, and I've just had lots of bad experiences with therapists. They thumb's gotta do what they thumb's gotta do. Anyway, I collected all the best therapy quotes from NBC's Hannibal after watching the show 7 times in a row. So these are in no particular order. These are the quotes from Hannibal that I live my life off. Alright, so I'm gonna read some of these quotes off and tell you why I love them and how I'm integrating them into my life and what I'm sucking out of. Because therapy is just to help you cope with living life. And honestly, some of these things from this stupid fucking TV show about murder husbands, something about this fucking TV show has rewired something in my brain. And if you're watching this video, you probably understand that. A life without regret would be no life at all. You're gonna regret things. You can't be afraid to do things because you're afraid you're gonna regret them. And also, don't feel bad to continue living after you've done something regrettable. You must adapt your behavior to avoid feeling the same way again. If something makes you feel shit, do what you can to not feel like shit again. I think that's just, don't take shit and change shit if you can. The tendency to see people as less human than you are is universal. I think that is a good standard of understanding other people. Not because other people are less human, but because people see their own humanity before they see the humanity in other people. So I'm getting distracted looking at the FedEx guy. Sorry, I'll cut that out, hopefully, maybe, we'll see. If we learn our limitations too soon, we never learn our power. Okay. I'm gonna tell you why I'm taking something from this. I'm pretty sure I'm autistic. I'm 98% sure. I just do not have the... Clearly, I can't fucking afford therapy, so I'm not gonna be able to afford a fucking autism diagnosis. Especially when I have Gen X parents. So they knew that there was something fucking wrong with me. That I'm a fucking weird ass kid. Because, fun fact, this is where you get fun fact in the middle of this fucking video. The day that my parents took me home from the hospital, also this is gonna explain this whole video, you explain how I came to the idea of this video just by telling you the story, but my parents said that the day that they came home with me from the hospital and they were giving me my first bath, I let out a adult-sized human laugh. That I didn't make again after that, but I made, they said it was very unsettling. I made them laugh though, because it was just a baby is not supposed to make that noise. But I did. Bitch, I did. I had the burden of course of not knowing who I am, or why I am the way I am, but I have the gift, because you must weigh pros and cons of all things, but I did have the gift of not being belittled or like stepped down on as like disabled people, or looked at that like that sometimes. But I didn't experience that because my limitations were not learned. And so, you know, I'm weird. I'm weird as shit. And I'm so happy about that, about myself. Which is, there's other reasons, in case you're wondering, there's other reasons for me to assume that I might be autistic. But that's what I'm taking about that. And also just like, it's such like a thing to like keep trying to do your whatever you want to do, because if you just accept that you can't do something, then you never learn what you can do. And I like that. The next one is, you must allow yourself to be intimate with your instincts. I love that because I'm all about being who you are. Be who you are for your pride. Can you tell I took an edible before I filmed this? Probably. Yeah, I think you should be intimately aware with who you are. That's big facts. I try every day to learn more about myself and figure out who I am, which is part of my process of unmasking that I've been going through since said autistic revelation. Okay, I'm gonna keep going because I have still a lot of sticky notes. You can't tell because the camera's so overexposed, but there's a lot of sticky notes. A tragedy is not to die, but to be wasted. Cannibal joke, yes, but also big facts. You know, don't waste your life. Try to do whatever you want to do, you know? And if you die trying, that's not a tragedy, because you died doing what you loved. This one, I love this one, because yes, same. I'm much weirder than you will ever be. It's fine to be weird. Because it is, and Hannibal gets it. It's fine to be weird. Next one, an abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation is normal behavior. I love that. Yeah, because like a lot of times we feel crazy, which is part of why I don't like most therapy, actually, because it's like, oh, I'm anxious. Oh, you shouldn't be anxious. Why are you anxious? You know, you have to be proven that your anxiety is unfounded, but sometimes it's fucking founded. If someone has pulled a gun on you before, as in Hannibal, would you not be scared next time you see them that's gonna happen again? You would. So, but in any normal circumstances, if you assume that any random person would do that to you, would be a little weird. But an abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation is normal behavior. Therapy only works if we have a genuine desire to know ourselves as we are, not as we would like to be. Yes, I feel like I will only be able to be the person that I want to be when I know myself as who I am. I love this in particular as someone learning to unmask and be myself. With every choice lies the possibility of regret. However, if I choose not to do something, it's usually for a good reason. I don't know if that's really a therapy quote, but I love that quote anyway. Just choose wisely. And when you make choices, make them because you wanted to make them. It's awful to regret something because of someone else's influence, but I feel, at least for me personally, it's much easier. It's harder to regret something when it was a choice that I made because I wanted to make it. Cause like it's just, you gotta accept that. This one is from Bedelia. This is a Bedelia quote for any of my Bedelia bitches. I can't blame him for doing whatever evolution equipped him to do. You can't. Self-acceptance is so important because you are who you are. Just don't be a dick. Just don't be a dick. That's all. Here's Alana. Alana saying, I've made the mistake of being my own therapist, always assessing my feelings and never acting on them. As a bitch who cannot afford therapy, I've also made the mistake of being my own therapist. But it is important to remind yourself that you shouldn't just think about your feelings, that you should feel them and you should live through them. They're there for a reason. They are not there just to fuck with you. Which I feel like another reason I don't usually like therapy is because it makes you feel like your emotions are there just to fuck with you, but they're not. I'm anxious for good reason. I'm depressed because for good reason. Have you seen what's going on in the world? This one, I love this one as an artist. This one holds true. I'm sorry if you could hear the traffic outside. Stravinsky said, a true composer thinks about his unfinished work the whole time. He's not always conscious of it, but he's aware of it when he suddenly knows what to do. I feel that about my art because there's always things going on in my mind. And if I'm not solving the problem's still there going on in the background. And I think that's just how the creative mind works. Because you have an idea, and you have to work out the idea. And you don't know how it is that you work it out. But sometimes something clicks. And suddenly you know what to do because you've been thinking about it this whole time. So much of being an artist is sitting and staring at the fucking wall. And then somehow magic happens. And that's the artist's life. You can tell how compare the desperation in these letters to the soft oh, I can calmly write this down. You can see that I'm dipping into insanity here. It is the prospect of death which drives us to greatness. Yeah. Because we only have this one life, so we gotta just do as much as we can. And I think that's a beautiful thing about mortality. Yeah. Because if we live forever, a lot of people wouldn't do anything. If we live forever, shit would not be good. This one is one that I have to repeat to myself a lot. It's don't go inside. You want to retreat. You want it as the glint of the rail tempts us when we hear the approaching train. I have to remind myself not to isolate and not to walk into my own low mind palace. Because that will get you fucked up. All gods demand sacrifices. Now, you could take this as a very literal way. But you could also take this as your gods are your desires. Those are the things that you gotta sacrifice for. All gods demand sacrifices. Your feelings are gods. You know? It's that God is not... Ooh, we're gonna get weird. Perhaps God is not this all-knowing being of all humanity, but God is the super consciousness of yourself. Your wants, your desires, the things... I know there's an actual word for it. You gotta sacrifice. Sometimes it's your time you sacrifice. Sometimes it's your life. Sometimes it's comfort. But yeah, everyone has gods that they sacrifice to. They just wouldn't all call them gods because they are afraid of acknowledging the power that these things hold in our lives. Wood burns because it has the proper stuff in it, and man becomes famous because he has the proper stuff in him. You don't have the proper stuff, Frederick. I just think that's so bitchy and cunty. It's also opposite of imposter syndrome because I feel a lot of imposter syndrome because it's oh, am I an artist? But I haven't drawn anything in a week. I'm yeah, bitch, you're also mentally ill. But you do have the proper stuff because shit turns out cool. But it's also nice to have a little jackass that you can like put a little dummy in your head, like Frederick Chilton, to beat the shit out of over and over again. It's important to know when it's time to turn the page. Don't beat a dead horse, baby. I think that's fine. I think that's more, for me personally, I think that's more has to do with like relationships and interpersonal connection. This next one, this one is kind of just like a reminder to eat. The feast is life. You put the feast in your belly and you live. I think that's such a cute line. You put the feast in your belly and you live. Next to resilience, because the human body is so resilient. We're so resilient. The fact that as long as you're fed and moderately warm, you kind of just keep pumping, keep going. Your heart keeps going, regardless of all the other like shit ass things that happen in the world. And things that are just like out of immediate control. You still put the feast in your belly and you live. Let's see what else we got. We have. Oh, this one's really good for me and my anxiety. It's why you feel like a lion were on the verge of devouring you. You have to convince yourself the lion is not in the room. It's so poetic and true to the feeling of anxiety, because anxiety really feels like something's going to like tear me to fucking shreds. Like the simple action that I'm trying to get through is just going to like dissolve me like acid. But this is one of the points where it's like, okay, there's some validity in gaslighting you therapeutically. Yes, if the danger is not immediate, you have to remind yourself nothing bad is going to happen to your physical self. Like nothing traumatic is going to happen from doing this interview that I am stressing out about. Spending each day immersed in tragedy may be doing more harm than good. You gotta get out sometimes. You gotta get out of your own bubble. I had to delete TikTok from my phone because seeing the tragedies, the global tragedies, this is not funny, but seeing the global tragedies happen day after day after day was really immensely taxing. I know it must be worlds and worlds like harder for people who are actually experiencing them. You have to honestly confront your limitations with what you do and how it affects you. This, for me, also has a very profound grasp on me because of my feelings towards masking and unlearning the like forced behavior. Like I can't make phone calls because it stresses me out far beyond any normal measure, and that's a limitation for me. And I have to be honest with that, and I have to just accept myself for myself and for my limitations, and how it affects me, because I can't get help until I do that. I love this one. A farmer who hand rears lambs loves them and sends them to slaughter. It's because the opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. Crossing boundaries is different than violating them. This is more on a personal note. You shouldn't really cross boundaries with other people. It's fucked up. And like manipulative. And again, fucked up. But to do it to yourself every now and again is kind of helpful. Push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. Well, I've given up good and evil for behaviorism. I like that. I like behaviorism to an extent. Like, I think therapy is interesting. And psychology is interesting. I don't think it's all correct, but it is very interesting, and it's something that I'm very captivated by. I think even before I found out what behavioralism was, behaviorism is something that I've always kind of felt like you are who you are. You'd be much more comfortable if you relax with yourself. Unmask, unwind, accept yourself for who you are. I also feel like when I allow myself to stim more in public, and when I just allow myself to be a weird little freak and be happy about it, I'm much more comfortable. I am. Like, I'm wearing a fucking best ever grandpa shirt, and I'm gonna post this video onto the internet. This is the most comfortable I felt all day. Maybe I can't save myself. Maybe that's just fine. accepting things as they are. You know, I think that's fine. Life shit, and I think that's okay. Suicide is the enemy. The fact that one of my favorite characters said that is kind of like a reason to live, which is fucked up, maybe, but if it works, it works, yeah? It's hard to be with another person when you can't get out of your own head, and that's a quote from Abel Gideon, and that is so true. And so I've decided I'm gonna put a pause on seeking out any romantic relations, because it's just not right up here, and I just need to, like, move things around. Waking up to who you are, that's all you need to understand. When I feel a little crazy, that makes me feel good, that quote, because it's like, you're just being yourself. Abigail, she said, if anything that can happen happens, then you can never really do the wrong thing. I like that. I think that's more of behaviorism. I think, like, accepting things as they are, even if they don't go the way you want them to or you expect them to, it's kind of something you just have to accept. Life is as it is. As with all things in the natural world, you'll adapt now and mutate later. That's fucking insane. I can't explain why that does something for me, but that does something for me. I don't feel safe explaining that. Even if you know the state of who you are today, you cannot predict who you'll be tomorrow. You're defined up until now, not beyond. There's always time to make positive change. There's always time to make positive change. You can always get better. Things can always be better. You know, you might be a fucking, I don't know, you might be like the biggest fucking dick rider on this side of the Hudson River. Or tomorrow you could be a great fucking person. Who knows? And our story is ongoing, so don't ever accept defeat, because there's still another chapter to be written. And the last one. We don't get wiser as we get older, but we do avoid or raise a certain amount of hell, depending on which we prefer. I really like that quote, because it's true. I think it's just true about life, a true fact of life. As I've gotten older, I've determined which kinds of hell I like to raise and which kinds I'd prefer to avoid. And I think it's great that I know myself this way. Yeah. Okay, that is all of the quotes, I believe. Yeah, so those are all my favorite quotes. Half an hour's worth of my favorite quotes from Hannibal. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Tell me what your favorite Hannibal quote is. And if you have brainworms like I do, catch you in the next video, I guess. Bye!